Okay, so for 1.11 to 1.14, so this is lesson one of unit one. For our concept check here, so just as usual, make sure you go through your work here. I want you to correct any mistakes that you may have made, and just fast forward to any questions as well. You do not need to watch the whole thing if you do not need to. So I'll just kind of be going through here. So for the first bit, it's just talking about ratios. So a cereal mixture contains 4 cups of oats, 2 cups of raisins, 1 cup of sliced almonds, and a half of cup of dried strawberries. It wants to know the ratio of oats to raisins. So remember, the order is important. Oats to raisins in this case is going to be there's 4 cups of oats to 2 cups of raisins. Now you can simplify this. I see these are both even to a 2-to-1 ratio as well. I see that I can divide both of these things by 2, right? So that's how I ended up getting a 2-to-1. But technically these are both the answer, but 2-to-1 is a simplified answer. So a ratio of strawberries to total ingredients. I see I have a half cup of strawberries, so I can put 0.5 there. That's fine too. And how many total ingredients do we have? We have 4 cups of oats and 2 cups of raisins. So that's 6 cups plus 1 cup of sliced almonds. That's 7 cups plus a half a cup of dried strawberries. The strawberries are included in all the ingredients, right? So I'm at 7.5 cups here. Now I don't want to be left with a decimal in both ratios here. So what I want to do then is I want to figure out something I can times this by to get it into a whole number. I want these into simplified whole numbers. I see I have a decimal, so I could times it by 10 if I wanted. I could get 5 and 75. But what I also see here is that, well, it's a half, right? If I times this by 2, I'm just going to get 1. That's the most simplified answer I can get then. So in this case, it's a 1 to 15 ratio because all I did was I times these by 2. Now you could times them by something else. Just make sure you simplify it back down later. So you could, for example, see that there's a decimal place in here. So what you could do, oops, it's going to copy that. So what you could also do is you could times the whole thing by 10 because that's going to get rid of that decimal place here, right? So I could do that. And then I just have to simplify it again. I see that, oh, I can take out, ooh, it's supposed to be times 10 there. Then I see I can take out a 5. I can divide them both sides by 5 here. And that would simplify that answer to a 1 to 15 ratio again. So the answer here is going to be 1 to 15. It's my final answer. I circle it, right? So next one, it asks for 3 cups of sliced almonds. How many cups of oats do I need? So set it up, right? I know that my almonds to oats ratio, or my oats to almonds ratio is I'm going to go 4 cups of oats to 1 cup of almonds, right? So it's a 4-to-1 ratio of oats to almonds. And then it also tells me that I have 3 cups of sliced almonds. So all I need to do is I need to figure out what number did we times the 1 by to get to the 3. In this case, it's just going to be times 3. So in that case, I times the other part by 3. My answer in this case is going to end up being 12. So it's a 12 to 3 ratio. So the next one here, Mr. Washkowski's snowblower requires 2,000 milliliters of gas to be mixed with 50 milliliters of additives. If he uses 3,700 milliliters of gas, how much additive does he require? So set up what you know. I know that 2,000 milliliters, I have a measurement now. I have a unit. I'm going to put that in there. 2,000 milliliters to 50 milliliters of additive. 2,000 milliliters of gas, 50 milliliters of additive. You could swap that to liters if you want. That's fine. Doesn't really matter much. Just make sure you keep organized, know what's happening. So the question then asks me, what happens if I give you 3,700 milliliters of gas? How much additive is that going to be? This is answered the exact same way. All I'm doing is I'm taking this 2,000, I'm timesing it by something to get my answer of 3,700. I don't know what that something is yet, but I can use my calculator to figure it out. So bear with me while I load that up. So what I do know is that I took 2,000, I times it by something to get to 3,700. I can reverse engineer that by just figuring out how many times 2,000 goes into 3,700, which is the same thing as 3,700 divided by 2,000. My answer is 1 and 17/20. You can put that into a decimal too. That'd be like 1.85 or something like that. Yeah, 1.85. Either of these is fine. So all I then do is I take this number, 1 and 17/20, or 1.85, times that by the 50, right? Because I'm doing the other side now. All of a sudden, I'm going to get 92.5. 92.5 milliliters. Now, there's a decimal in here. You can't really leave it that way, but the question here is now asking for a very precise amount. So in this case, I can leave it like that because I'm not have my answer in a ratio like I did above. In this case, it's a word problem. I can keep a decimal. So it's a word problem, right? How much additive does he require? He requires, make a statement. He requires 92.5 milliliters of additive. Boom, you've made a statement. That's the final answer. If you just do the stuff on the left, that's not the final answer. This is the final answer. You need to make sure you specify, right? So let's go to question 3 here. So using the graph, identify what the slope of the line is. Remember, you calculate a slope with this formula. M equals rise over run, right? So M equals, what's my rise? How many times did it go up here? Well, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. It goes up 4 times, right? So that's my rise. My run is how far across it goes along the horizon. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So it's just 4 over 7. And how did I get this 4 and 7? All I did was I looked at the distance between these 2 points on this graph, right? From this line to this line. That's my answer. M equals 4 over 7. The slope is 4/7. I can't simplify that anymore. That's as simplified as it can possibly get. So now what I want to do is I want to calculate the slope of a line that has a rise of 8 centimeters for a run of 12 centimeters. So same thing. Put my formula in. M equals rise over run. Now I know my rise in this case is 8 centimeters. And my run is 12 centimeters. So then you're not done here though, because you can simplify this. I see they're both even, so I'm going to divide them both by 2. So I get 4, 6. Oh, they're both even, so I'm going to divide them both by 2 again. And you end up getting 2 centimeters over 3 centimeters, right? It's 2 over 3. That's the final slope here. So you simplify your answer. So next one here, slope of a line is 3/10. What's the rise if the run is 100 meters? Okay, so let's write that in here. So first off, I know that I have 3/10 as my slope. Sorry, my M equals 3/10. But one thing I also know is that I don't know what my slope is. I'm going to put an X there for now. Or so I don't know what my rise is of my new one, but I know that the run is 100 meters of the new equation. So I know I have this stuff here. So one thing I can do is all I need to do, like these have to be equal, right? These are the same thing, just different numbers, just like up here. Same thing, but different numbers. So I took 10, I times it by a number to get to 100 here, right? I took 10, I times it by 10 to get to 100. So I do the exact same thing with the thing on the top, right? And if I do that, I know then that my answer is going to be 30 meters, right? The unit, the measurement is really important, over 100 meters. The rise is 30 meters. That's my final answer. Okay, number 6. So calculate the slope of a ladder that is 2.4 meters tall and goes over 3.5 meters ground, right? So I have my wall here, and then here's my ladder. So I can see that it goes up 2.4 meters. And it goes over the ground. It covers 3.5 meters of ground. In this case, so write my formula, M equals rise over run. So M equals rise over run. My rise in this case is 2.4 meters. My run in this case is 3.5 meters. Now, if you've gotten here, remember, you cannot have a decimal in your rise and run. You cannot have a decimal in a fraction. So what we need to do is we need to figure out a way to times this by something so that I now no longer have any decimals. I need to times these numbers by something, make an equivalent slope, equivalent fraction that no longer has any decimals. Well, I see that they both just have one decimal place, right? So if I want to get rid of that, I can just times it by 10. So why don't I just times the whole thing by 10? All of a sudden, I'm going to get 24 over 35 meters. So it's 24, sorry, actually 24 over 35. Is there anything I can simplify this by? 2 doesn't work. 3 does not work. 5 doesn't work. Doesn't look like 7 or anything else does. So no, this is my final answer. This is the slope right here, 24 over 35. So final question is question 7. Using the prism to the right, answer the following questions. I want to find the surface area here. The surface area is just going to be, this is the front, right? Oops. The surface area is just going to be all 6 sides added up. So I have the front, which means I also have a back. I have the top, which also means I have the bottom. And I have the right side, which means I also have a left side. So again, you guys need to get in the habit of this. Write yourselves an equation. The surface area is equal to front plus back plus top plus bottom plus right side plus left side. That's it. Okay. So I'm gonna calculate the front here. So I'm gonna calculate the front. So all I do is I take the surface area of this thing, 8 centimeters times 5 centimeters, length times width. It's a rectangle. In this case, it's going to be 8 centimeters times 5 centimeters. That's going to give me 40 centimeters squared. Now, because I have the front done, I now also have my back done. So I'm good on these two, front, back. I'll need to remember to put the other 40 centimeters squared in here for the back, but I have it done. So that's why you put this little formula up here. So now I'm going to do the top, which is also the bottom. That's a rectangle, right? Length times width equals 15 centimeters times 5 centimeters, right? It's these 2 lines here. So when I multiply that out, 15 centimeters times 5 centimeters, I'm going to get 75 centimeters squared. Okay, again, I'm underlining these. These are important. Now I need to do the right side. So the sides, right? These are equal to, again, length times width. It's a rectangle. That's going to be 15 centimeters times 8 centimeters because I'm measuring how tall this part is and this long line here, right? So 15 times 8. So 15 times 8 is going to give me 120 centimeters squared. Cool. So remember, go back to your original formula though. It's the front plus the back. So 40 plus 40 plus the top plus the bottom plus 75 plus 75 plus right side plus left side plus 120 plus 120. So put that all in your calculator. So it's 40 plus another 40, right? Front plus back. And then it's going to be the top plus the bottom plus the right side plus the left side. You're adding up 6 things. Or you can add up these 3 and times it by 2, whatever works for you. But ultimately, your final answer here is going to be 470 centimeters squared. Okay? Surface area, done. Now for the volume of it, I look at my formula. It's a 3D shape. It's a 3D prism. I know that my volume is going to be, remember, it's the area of the base times the height, right? What is my base here? My base of this shape, I'm going to use blue for this. My base of this shape is a rectangle, right? That's the base. That's the bottom of my shape. It's a rectangle. How do I find the area of a rectangle? Length times width, right? Then I times that by height. So area of the base is length times width times the height. My length is going to be 5 centimeters. My width is not 8. It's the 15 centimeters here, right? You're doing the base first. Then times it by the height, which is 8 centimeters. So if I times all this together, 5 times 15 times 8, I get 600 centimeters, not squared, cubed, right? That's my final answer, 600 centimeters cubed. Now, using volume, what's the capacity in milliliters or liters? Question C. I know that 1,000 milliliters is the same thing. Oops, 1,000 milliliters is the same thing as 1,000 cubic centimeters. This is on your formula sheet if you missed that day. So it's a 1-to-1 ratio, right? So then that means if I have 600 centimeters cubed, isn't that not the same thing as just 600 milliliters? So that would be my answer there. Now, if you want to turn it into liters, you'd have to turn the base thing into liters first. So I know that 1 liter is equal to 1,000 cubic centimeters as well. This is, again, on your formula sheet. And so same thing, just like those questions up above. Well, if I want to figure out how many liters that is, I know I have 600 centimeters. All I did was I took this number and I times it by something to get 600. 600 divided by 1,000 is going to give me 0.6. I took this number, I times it by 0.6. So I take this number, I times this by 0.6. I end up getting 0.6 liters is my final answer here. So 0.6 liters. Either one of these answers is acceptable. Okay, so once you've done that, you can put your thing back in your binder and then you're good to go.